One of the big roadblocks to both overall health and weight loss in menopause, it starts in our gut. See, in menopause, it's a time of life where we have a very natural gut microbiome shift. That part is unavoidable. It's a part of life that when we hit menopause, we are going to experience this shift in our gut microbiome. Now, just like all of the things we've been talking about, cortisol, inflammation, it does not mean suck it up, buttercup. That's just how life is in menopause. What it means is that we need to take some very specific intentional action steps to get our gut health in check, both for our overall health and for weight loss in menopause. So in a second here, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to take you through our gut health guide. Now, if you've been following along in this video series, you know that the first thing we have every woman do is go through our symptom checklist. Because in menopause, there are hundreds of symptoms. This is not just about hot flashes. And if we tried to tackle each and every symptom, we would be here for years, we would get overwhelmed, and we'd quit before we start. But when we can group symptoms into what we call the big three, that gives us the domino effect. We can start tackling cortisol, we can start tackling inflammation, and we can start tackling gut health. Best of all, because we are humans, we can't compartmentalize. Each of these big three are going to go hand in hand. As we start reducing cortisol, we're going to notice a shift in our gut health, right? All of these big three go together and it makes these symptoms much more manageable. So for the purposes of today, as we're talking about this natural shift that happens in our gut biome, let's talk about some actionable steps we can take to start getting our gut health in check. I'm going to share my screen and go through that guide with you. As you've heard me talk about quite a bit, if you've been following along in this video series, nothing we do is about major life overhauls, right? So many of us have been, I'm going to use the word brainwashed by the nutrition industry to be all in, all out. I'm either on my diet or off. I'm either doing a major life overhaul or I've messed it up. The truth is that as pleasure-seeking creatures, humans by nature are pleasure-seeking creatures. All we need to do is get a snowball rolling down a hill. As we get some momentum, we're going to say, wow, I feel incredible. What else can I do, right? We talked about that when we talked about symptom grouping. We talked about that when we talked about cortisol. We talked about that when we talked about inflammation. And we're mentioning it again here in gut health because what we are not here to do is to wipe out every fun food and say, I'm never having a slice of pizza. I'm never having a cocktail at the end of the day. It's about the decisions we make big picture while still allowing for those more fun foods and drinks now and then. So the first thing that we do with our members is we want to go through and identify trigger foods. Now, I'm not a sugarcoat kind of person. This part can be kind of tedious. And if putting in a little bit of work can save us from a lifetime of gut issues, is that worth it? I think so. Because most of us have some foods that trigger us. I'll give you an example. As of recently, I was talking to a member of ours who's very into workouts. So she eats a lot of eggs, specifically egg whites. And she discovered that egg whites were a trigger for her. They were impacting her gut health. And by simply removing them, it was night and day. Now, to get there, she had to do a little bit of work. She had to keep track of what she was eating to identify what was triggering her. But those few days of work, if that can lead to a lifetime of relief, 100% worth it. And it's not a forever thing. As we get our gut health in check, most people are able to add those trigger foods back in with enough time because the foundation's been set. So the first thing we do with all of our members is we're going to put some time in and we're going to identify, are there any specific foods that are triggering your gut health? For some people, we see things like onions, like garlic. Again, egg whites was one that we saw recently. We've seen it with a few members. That's kind of the low-hanging fruit of what can I pull out for a quick and easy fix. From there, we're going to start talking about what foods can I start incorporating. What we don't need to be doing, and this is important because I see so many women throwing away their hard-earned cash. We don't need to be buying a million supplements. We don't need to be buying prebiotics and probiotics. We can do it with nutrition alone. So again, not about a major life overhaul, not about all or nothing. Can I fit some prebiotic foods in there? If garlic's not a trigger for me, can I get some in there? How about bananas, chickpeas, asparagus? The list goes on and on. What about probiotics? Things like yogurt, things like kimchi, sauerkraut, tempeh. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, you may be more familiar with tempeh. Again, this does not mean these are the only foods we're eating in a day, but where can I start to add them in the name of improving my gut health? Fiber is a huge one. The thing with fiber is you want to go slowly. We don't want to go 0 to 100 or you will never go to the bathroom again. But where can I start slowly increasing my fiber intake? Can I add in more whole wheat, more quinoa, more brown rice, oats, barley, peas, kale? The list goes on and on. Small steps getting the snowball rolling down a hill. Now, if you saw yesterday's email where we talked about cortisol, you heard me say these things go hand in hand. The mind-gut connection is real. As we start to get our cortisol in check, as we start to reduce stress, reducing cortisol raising activities, adding in those activities that help reduce, we're going to go hand in hand with helping our gut health. So with our members, after we've identified trigger foods, after we've started to incorporate what's the low-hanging fruit, what foods can I start adding into my day, we're going to go back to that conversation about cortisol. What can I reduce? What can I add in? Okay, you've heard me say it a few times now. I call them the big three because if we tried to tackle every single menopausal symptom, we'd get into paralysis by analysis. We'd quit before we start. When we can categorize our symptoms, does this fall under cortisol? Does this fall under inflammation? Does this fall under gut health? That gives us a personalized roadmap of how we can start tackling these things. And as you've heard me say a few times, they go hand in hand. As you get your cortisol in check, your gut health is going to improve. As your inflammation improves, your gut health is going to improve. These all go together. If you've been paying attention, you know by now, the name of the game is personalization. These one-size-fits-all cookie cutters, they don't work for anyone, especially in menopause. That's why we always start with a free one-to-one strategy session. We want to know what's going on. What are your personal symptoms? What do your goals look like? What does the plan to look like to bridge that gap to get your body from where it is to where it needs to be? And if we do feel like it's a fit to offer help, we'll talk you through what that looks like from there. If you're ready to apply for your free one-to-one strategy session, the link is below. It's going to ask you a couple questions and take you straight to our calendar. I'm going to be back in your inbox one more time tomorrow to talk about an actionable game plan to fire up your metabolism in menopause and beyond. I will see you then.